How's it going? Welcome to Fantasy Footy Fan. Jeff here, and thanks for watching. I appreciate it. This is my AFL fantasy team reveal. If you've watched my Supercoach team reveal, you'll notice that there'll be similar players with similar explanations as to why I've picked these players. The other thing that you'll notice is that I said I had Jason Horne-Francis in this team, and I have since taken him out of my team, and I'll explain why and what changes I made a little later. Now, I do know most of you will say that I shouldn't have had him in there in the first place. That's fair enough, but I genuinely believe that he's got a lot of upside this year if you're prepared to take the gamble on him. I'll go into more detail about him in my next video, where I'll go through other premiums and the value picks that I'm considering. As far as strategy goes, I always start my fantasy teams with value picks, looking for that upward trend. As far as 2024 goes, I'll be picking my best team right from the start, riding out those early buys and launching from there. Now, having said that, I'm still taking into consideration players that do have that early buy and whether I select them or not, so I'm still thinking about that. But I also think that unlike the last couple of years, we'll see more of a guns and rookie structure with maybe one or even two mid-prices in most fantasy teams. So with my team, beginning in defense, I am starting with Nick Daicos. Just like 52% of other teams in AFL fantasy, he is a very popular pick. And a popular pick for a reason. Now, there is a lot of talk whether we start him or not because of the possible round 4 tag from Finn McGuinness and his round 5 bye after that. Daicos averaged 88 in his first year and 108 in his second year. It's just amazing. Is he going to be a better player this year? Absolutely. Will that be reflected in his fantasy scores? Without a doubt. He plays GWS, Sydney, St Kilda and Brisbane, and then Hawthorn with that potential McGuinness tag, and then has the bye. Now, he's priced at an average of 109. He played 8 games last year where he had over 60% CBAs and he averaged 113. 4 of those games, his CBAs were over 70% where he averaged 118. Now, he's playing exclusively in the midfield this year. He'll average over 70% CBAs in every game for sure. And by the time his early bye comes around, I think he'll be averaging around that 115 to 120 point mark. Now, we all need Daicos in our team at some stage. And for me, it's just better to just start with him. His average and price are going to go up from the get-go, and I'm not going to mess around with trades to try to get him in after his bye. That's not the way that I'm approaching it. My next pick is James Sicily. Now, we know with Sicily, you get the highs and you get the lows. Great ceiling, but can have some bad games too. He averaged 96 in 2022 and 104 last season, which is the highest of his career. Last year, he had scores of 130, 132, 160, and 165. And in my opinion, I think he averages 110 this year and maybe even more. Now, reports from training is that he's got the same role. And if he's not playing on from kick-ins, then he's playing, or the player who's doing the kick-ins is kicking it to him. Now, I do have to say, I am also considering Tom Stewart in this position, especially with talk that the Cats may play Stewart more in the middle this year. So I think by the time round 1 comes around, it'll either be Sicily or Stewart at D2 for me. My next pick that I'm going with is Hayden Young. Now, owned by 32% of teams, I see that going up. In his last 4 games last year where he played more in the midfield, he averaged 101 and he's priced at 89. Now, he's training exclusively in the midfield this preseason, and it's been officially said a number of times that he will be a full-time mid this year. I think he'll average around the 100 to 105 point mark, in my opinion. Now, he also doesn't play in round 0, so no early bye, and he has the round 13 bye, which Fremantle share with Port, which will massively help us during rounds 14 and 15. So nothing but positives and upside with Hayden Young. My next pick that I'm going with is Heath Chapman. Now, he missed most of last year due to a shoulder injury. He averaged 71 in 2022 from 17 games, and he's priced at an average of 60. Now, if he can average around that 70 to 80 points, hopefully, then he'll make some nice cash for us. Now, reports are saying that he will play wing this year, but likely drop back to halfback every now and then, so probably a defensive wing role. Now, it would be better if he was exclusively halfback, but at his price and with pretty good job security, I think, he should make us money and score well enough to justify his selection in our teams. Now, my next pick in defense, I'm going with a very popular pick in Zach Williams. Now, he missed last year due to an ACL, and he's only priced at 49. Now, he averaged 70 in 2022 from 9 games, and he's averaged in the 80s in the past. It looks like he's playing at halfback this season, and if he lines up in round 1 and he has no hiccups during the preseason from here on in, then it's hard to look past him at that price. He should at least average around that 70 point mark, which would be a 21 point upside. Now, the rest of my defense are rookie placeholders. I've done a little research, but I'm not putting too much into them until March. But for now, at D6, I have got Daniel Curtin. Now, he'll likely play round 1, especially with a Duday leaving. He jumped straight into that position as an intercepting defender. He played 6 games in the Waffle towards the end of last year and averaged 60, which is not too bad. On the bench, I have Toby Pink. Now, he's a popular bench option, 25-year-old mature-aged rookie, joined North as a delisted free agent, may hold down a position in defence, especially with North losing Ben Mackay and having a couple of defenders with recent injuries. Don't know about his scoring ability, so if we're desperate in defence, then he might be a good pick. My other bench player is Ari Schoenmaker. Now, he averaged 105 from 7 games in the NAB League last year, so he might be a good bench option, but we'll have to just wait and see if he lines up in round 1. Now, to the all-important midfield. My first pick in my midfield is Tom Green. So in his last 3 seasons, he's averaged 70, 85, and 109 last year. Now, if he could kick a little more than he handballs, then that's really the only issue with Green. But either way, I still predict he'll average around that 115 to 120 mark this year. I'm expecting big things from Tom Green this year. The concern for many fantasy coaches is that he has the round 3 bye, but he plays Collingwood and North at home in his first 2 games. The Pies don't tag and aren't overly accountable to opposition midfielders, and he should dominate against North. Then in round 2, he has West Coast in Perth, who don't have a strong midfield anyway. Now, he's priced at an average of 110, and I expect him to be well above that by round 3. And I think it's going to be a bit tough to get him in after that. At M2, I have selected Rory Laird. Now he's priced at an average of 110 and only owned by 10% of teams so far. So that's pretty good. Will he get back to that 2022 average of 120? Maybe. But I do think it will be around that 115 mark, maybe 115 to 120 mark. He averaged 109 last year, but he got off to an average start, which was due to a few factors. He had that horrible 57 in round one, which he put that game down to a very hot day and struggled with the humidity. So we'll give him that. The Crows were also running Rochelle, Rankin, etc. through the midfield, and I think that kind of pace might have affected Laird. But with Crouch in the midfield this year, that might benefit him, I think. Last year, Laird did end up settling down, and he ended up averaging 113 from round 5, and he played 5 games with Crouch towards the end of last year where he averaged 114. So he is a reliable pick. At M3, I am selecting Zach Butters. Now, his first 5 years in the AFL, Zach Butters averaged 57, 61, 75, 86, and 100 last year. I love that upward trend with him. His CBA percentage increased as the year went on last year, and I see him attending over 70%, I think, of centre bounces this year. He's priced at an average of 100, but I see him averaging around the 110 mark this year. He also has the round 13 bye and no early bye as well. So it's just all upside with Zach Butters. At M4, I am going with LDU. Now he averaged 112 in his last 6 games of the season. Priced at an average of 97, there's definitely upside there. I think he could average around that 110 mark this year, all going well. But as we know with LDU, there is a risk with injury. However, having said that, he did play 20 and 21 games in 2021 and 2022 respectively. He is going to go huge one of these years, and I'm really hoping it's this year. The other thing with LDU, I love watching this guy play. I love picking a handful of players in my teams that, when I'm watching footy, I'm always watching footy and I'm always watching my fantasy players. But I just love players that I love watching play, that I love watching them play the game. And I love LDU because he plays so well, so aggressively, tackles hard. I just love the way he moves, love the way he plays. So I'm really happy having him in my team. Next up is Touk Miller. Now, with Miller, he averaged 122 just a couple of years ago. Now, he's another player I love to watch. He runs from contest to contest and he tackles hard. So I really enjoy watching him play. He averaged 104 in his first 5 games last year, and then got a 48 when he got injured in round 6. And he wasn't really the same when he came back from his knee injury, hence his inconsistent scores when he came back. Now he's priced at an average of 96, and I think he could average around the 105 to even 110 mark with Touk. Now some are concerned about what position he plays, but I can't see Hardwick playing his fully fit co-captain out of position, playing him on a wing or half forward. He'll be in there in the midfield with Anderson and Rowell, with Flanders rotating. Now he does have the bye in round 3, so there may be a strategy there where you might prefer to see how he goes in the first few rounds and then get him in after his bye. The other thing to consider is that Anderson, Rowell and Flanders will be better and thus get their hands on the ball more. Now, will this impact Touk's score? It's quite possible that it will. Now, he's at M5 for me for now, but I could see myself putting Walsh or even another player at M5. Now, the rest of my picks are rookies and stock standard rookies, looking at other teams as well and looking at the percentage of ownership. So I'm definitely going to be starting with Colby McKercher. Now, he will definitely play, and he is a ball magnet. Now, according to reports, it looks like Sheasel will be playing at halfback and midfield this year, and Zach Fisher will be playing at halfback, and McKercher is also training at halfback. So North will likely rotate players through halfback, but either way, he is a must-have. He'll be a definite cash cow for us for sure. Now, next up, I'm going with Riley Sanders. Now, he's likely to start on the bench and play at half forward and, probably have the occasional stint in the midfield. With Bailey Smith injured, that might help him out a little bit. And like McKercher, around half of fantasy teams own him. So he is a safe pick for now anyway. But with these rooks, we just have to follow training reports, keep a close eye during the preseason games. But I'm not as big on the match sim reports. Now, if you listen to the traders, which I assume most of you probably do, every year Cal bangs on about match sims and that you have the same team playing each other. So for example, you need like 6 to 8 mids to play match simulation. So it doesn't mean that they're going to play round one, let alone playing in that position anyway. So I take match sims with a grain of salt. There are some things that you can get out of it, but you can't get a lot out of them as far as match simulation goes. If you really want to see the roles they're playing, then we need to be watching those preseason games. And then if they actually have or if they're playing in round 0, that's a great a game or games to watch in round 0 to see if those players will actually be playing and what role they'll be playing as well. Now at M8, I am going with Jeremy Sharp. Now he's all but guaranteed that wing position. Every word out of Freo about Jeremy Sharp is how excited they all are about him holding down that wing position. So he's not only a must-have, but probably a starter on your field as well. The other wing will be interesting with Chapman and O'Driscoll, maybe even Matthew Johnson fighting for that position. Of course, I'm hoping it's going to be Chapman. Or even better, if it was O'Driscoll on the wing and Chapman playing at half-back, that would be even better, because obviously I've got Chapman in my defence. Now for the bench, I'm going with 2 Geelong players. So I'm going with Jai Clark and George Stevens. Now Clark was a first round pick from 2022. He was likened to Joel Selwood, injured for pretty much all of last year. George Stevens was picked up in last year's draft. Now he's a ball magnet and he might get a game in round 1. But again, with rookies, we'll just have to wait and see. So I said earlier that I did have Jason Horne-Francis in my team. I also had Sam Walsh in my team as well. And so what I did was I downgraded Horne-Francis. I think I downgraded him to Riley Sanders because I didn't have him in my team. So I downgraded him to Riley Sanders and I upgraded Walsh to Butters, which I think's, Walsh is probably the better value because he's a lot cheaper. But I think the Butters output will be good. Plus Butters, he's not playing in round 0 and he's got the round 13 bye. So I feel like there's some benefit there. And then with the extra cash, I upgraded a rookie in defense up to Chapman. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think I'll probably end up sticking with that, but again, you never know. We'll see. Now, as far as my rucks go, I am starting with Max Gawn. Now, from rounds 18 to 21, Gawn averaged 126 without Grundy in the side. And that included scores of 131 and 162. Now, he's priced at an average of just 92. From 2018 to 2022, he averaged 109, 111, 99, which is a COVID year, 111, and 103. The concern with Max is he will be 32 at the start of the season, and he has the round 6 bye. Now his first 6 games he'll be rucking against Grundy, English, Reeves, probably Soldo and Sweet, O'Brien and McInerney. But I think he'll comfortably average more than 100 by round 6 in my opinion. I think actually more like 105 to 110. So I think he's fantastic value. For my R2, I'm going with a very popular pick, of course, and that's Brodie Grundy. From rounds 3 to 5, Grundy averaged 102 without Gawn in the side last year. He's priced at an average of 76. That is so cheap for a gun ruckman like Grundy, or the ruck pick, as the traders like to call him. From 2018 to 2022, he averaged 119, 124, 88, COVID year, 106, and 93, in which he only played 6 games due to injury in the year he got that 93 average. Now he is massive unders. The only concern with Grundy is he has the round 5 bye. Now his first 5 games he'll be rucking against Briggs, Cameron, Draper, Nankervis and Flynn. I think he will comfortably average at the very least around 106 by round 5, and that would be a 30-point upside. So as far as I'm concerned, he's a must-have. For my ruck bench, I'm going with Archer Reed. Not really a lot to explain here. He's a 213k ruck forward, may get a game, we'll just have to wait and see. However, if Jordan Sweet at 387k or Toby Conway at 316k are playing round 1, I will definitely be moving money around for one of them to get them on my ruck bench. Sweet averaged 104 points from 19 games in the VFL last season, and Conway could very well oust Stanley as the Cats' #1 ruck. And as we know, making cash from our rookies, selling high and buying low is the key to success in AFL fantasy. Now, we normally use our bench ruckman for our captaincy loophole, but with the early buys and rookies who may not play and injured players, I think we'll have that covered. The other advantage is when Grundy and Gawn have their buys in round 5 and 6, I'll have bench cover, and that's going to come in handy during the early buy rounds. Now in my forward line, I am starting with Jack Macrae. And that's really because there isn't a premium player that I'm comfortable picking that has possible upside in the forward line. Likely Macrae will finish a top 6 forward by the end of the year. He's priced at an average of 92, and I think he could get to that 100-point average, especially with Bailey Smith injured. And he may get a little bit more mid-time with Bailey Smith out, only a little bit, and that could, maybe bump up, his average. But as we know, with Macrae, with the Western Bulldogs, it's all dependent on that unpredictable maniac Bevo. We just want Macrae playing in the midfield, so we're just going to have to keep an eye out for him during the preseason games and see if he is playing a bit more mid-time. But either way, I probably will be starting with him. My next forward, I'm going with Sam Flanders. Now last year, he played 5 games in the VFL where he averaged 142. He was then brought into the team in round 15. Dew played him at half forward for a few games where, he was okay. And then Dew was sacked after round 17. And then in round 18, Stephen King moved him into the midfield where he averaged 112 from 7 games. And he's priced at an average of 90. So hopefully Hardwick plays him through the midfield. I can't really see why not, but we do get to see his role in round 0. And that's where, in this instance, playing in round 0, is an advantage. At F3, I'm going with Taylor Adams. Now, I know many fantasy coaches have their reservations about Adams, whether he'll play in the midfield or even how much time he'll spend in there. And he has the round 5 bye. But this is how I see it. In 2021, he averages 100. 77% CBAs, so he's playing primetime mid. Fly comes in and coaches Collingwood in 2022 and makes some changes. In 2022, Adams' CBAs dropped to 65%. DeGoey is now playing more mid amongst other players, and Adams is playing more mid-forward. 2023, DeGoey is a full-time mid. Tom Mitchell is traded in. Dacos plays more mid-time. Adams' CBAs dropped to 39%. Now, he loves the Pies, but he can see the writing is on the wall. He wants to play midfield, but he's being pushed out of the midfield. So he looks at his options, and Sydney are very interested in getting an in and under midfielder. Adams is only moving if he is guaranteed a full-time midfield role. Otherwise, why would you leave a premiership team where you're a vice captain and have a permanent position in the team? So he is absolutely playing in the midfield for Sydney. Expect over 70% CBAs. Now he's priced at an average of 76. Now he has averaged in the 90s and over 100 in the past when playing exclusively in the midfield. If he can average anything over 90, I'll be happy with that at his price. The risk, of course, is his propensity for injury. He is 30 after all, but I'm hopeful that he makes some cash before he gets injured, if he does get injured. And he does have that round 5 bye. Now he does play Melbourne, West Coast, Collingwood, Essendon and Richmond before his bye. So I think his price will go up significantly by the time his bye comes around. In addition to the fact that he's come out recently saying that he's had a great preseason and that his body is feeling good. So based on all that information, for me, he is a lock in my side. Now at F4, I am going with the most selected player in AFL fantasy at 67% ownership, and that's Harley Reid. Now, Adam Simpson said recently that he'll be playing at half back with a little time in the middle and even possibly up forward. To me, it sounds like another Dacos Sheasel year ahead for Harley Reid. So really, don't even think about it. Just pick him. How he's not 100% owned, I'm not sure. 67% is too low for him. Now, the rest of my forwards, I guess Reid is a rookie. He's an expensive rookie, but the rest of my forwards are rookies as well. And so my next player that I've got is Orazio Fantasia. Now, he's more of a placeholder for now. He's priced at an average of 30, but could potentially average around that 50 to 60 mark if he gets a good run at it and has job security. So we'll just have to keep an eye on him. And finally at F6, currently I've got in there Darcy Wilson. Now he looks like he could step straight into that round 1 team. Ross Lyon was quoted as saying that he'll play a lot of football next year. He averaged 102 from 9 games in the NAB League last year. So a lot of positive signs there. And, hopefully he lines up in round 1. On my bench, I'm going with Sean Manor. Now, he's a 26-year-old forward. Many expect that he'll play round 1. Averaged 110 points from 21 games in the VFL last season. So, good pick for now on the bench. Now, for my last forward, I'm going with, and this really is a placeholder, I'm going with Aaron Cadman. Now, he is a key position player, and he only averaged 24 points from 12 games last year. I've heard good things about him in the preseason. He's doing well, but like I said, I just got him in there for now. We'll see with the rookies close to the March. With my utility, I'm going with Clay Hall. Now, he averaged 68 in the waffle from 9 games last year. Hearing some positive things coming out from West Coast about him. He may line up round 1. Again, he's in there as a placeholder. We'll see how we go for now. So look, there'll be some changes along the way till round 1, especially around the rookies. But I'm fairly happy with the structure of my team. As far as the early buys go, now I think I am okay with what I've got. So if I look at round 2, I've got Williams and Fantasia. Now there's every chance that Fantasia won't be there, but likely Williams will be. So just the one player out, and I'm very happy with that. In round 3, I've got Green, Miller and Flanders. So that's 3 players out. Now I'm hoping that some of these rookies in my mids or forwards are doing well enough to cover, but it may end up being that I might have to trade one of these players, and there'll be no one in the forward line likely. Green I don't want to get rid of, so it may end up having to be Took. So if Took is, I always get that mixed up. Took. Sorry, Took. If Miller, I'll just go with Miller. If Miller is doing really well and made a heap of cash, then I may end up just using someone on my bench and keeping him. So I'll just have to wait and see on that. For round 5, I've also got 3 players out: Dacos, Grundy, and Adams. Now I'm hoping that Sweet or Conway is there on my bench. That'll cover Grundy. With Adams, again, I'll just have to assess how he's playing. I may end up trading him if he's not really working out the way I'd hoped for. Dacos, I'm definitely not trading. I'm not doing that. Some may have a strategy around that to keep Dacos and then trade him out at his buy and then bring him back in. That may work for you. That's great if it works, but I'm not going that way. And then with round 6, I've only got Gorn. And again, if Conway or Sweet is on the bench, I can bring him on for Gorn. So I think that I'm okay with that for now. I know that some of you out there may not want to take that gamble where you've got so many players on your bench. You may so many players missing the early buy, or missing because of the early buys. So I can understand that, and that you may want to pick maybe less players who are missing. I know with my brother-in-law's team, he has not picked a single player of the early buys. He is picking only players that are playing all the way through. So it's going to be really interesting to see how my team goes compared to his team. So look, I really hope that you enjoyed my team reveal, and look, hopefully it helps with your team as well. As I mentioned in my next video, I'll go through other premium and value picks that I'm also considering for my AFL fantasy team. And I'll also be dropping my Feb update video for my Supercoach team soon as well, because I made a couple of changes with that team too. So thanks again for watching, really appreciate it, and I'll catch you soon.